All right, guys, chasing up Dewey's Revolution, moving some of these McDonald's chicken nugget figures out of the way. Got to put those on my McDonald's shelf. Thank you very much, G.I. Joe Ron. Anyway, we are here. It is time. The kickoff, round one of the My Favorite LJN tournament. If you watched the video posted earlier today, I explained the tournament. We are basically going to decide. I am going to figure out what is my favorite LJN WWF wrestling superstar, because as I sit here right now, I don't know. I don't know who my favorite is. I have a favorite 5, I have a favorite 10. I don't know who my absolute favorite is. Through this tournament, we're going to decide who my favorite is. Now, I have pulled 8 figures from the shelf in the order that they were standing. I have put my figures in order of release, and really no other particular order than order of series release. But like Brutus Beefcake and Greg Valentine came out in the same series. They're a tag team, so I stood them next to each other. Obviously, the British Bulldogs. So there might be a little bit of, a reasoning why I stood some guys next to each other. But they're all in order of release. All right. So the first 5 that were standing next to each other are the first. The first match of the first round, as I mentioned yesterday, is between Jimmy Snuka and Andre the Giant, both the 1984 figures. One of these is going to go. One of these must go. Let's talk about Snuka first. So Snuka was a figure that I didn't have for a long time. I didn't get Snuka until Christmas of '85, and he was out since '84, and I went through all of '85 only having Hogan and Andre, and did not get Snuka until late '85, and then he was gone. Snuka was gone from the WWF by the time his figure came out, and the figure was gone. You could not find a Jimmy Snuka figure anywhere back in the day. And my use of Snuka, believe it or not, was not always as Jimmy Snuka. I didn't use Jimmy Snuka as Jimmy Snuka a lot because I wasn't playing with him while he was a prominent WWF character. Remember, I got him late '85. He was gone by then. I was not new into wrestling, but I had watched the Jimmy Snuka Roddy Piper feud. I didn't know where Snuka had gone in late '85. He wasn't showing up in the AWA right away. I might not have even been catching the weekly AWA shows. So when I finally got my Snuka figure, he was not active as much in my federation. He did come in '86 and '87 as Siva Afi, who was the WWF's attempt at replacing Snuka, they say. But they brought in another Islander type of character, another Fiji Islander, and he was Siva Afi. I did rename Snuka Siva Afi and had him be more of a mid to lower card enhancement style worker in my federation. Not used a lot. Great look. It's one of my favorite looking figures. It kind of captures Jimmy Snuka. I think Jimmy Snuka was a little thicker. He was a lot more muscular. If you go back and you watch some '83, '84 Snuka, the roids are just flowing, and he's big. He is bulky. The only LJN not the only LJN. There's one more, I think, Haku. But we got no shoes on the Superfly. But it's these first 5 are definitely visually iconic, because they are the first 5. Jimmy Snuka takes on Andre the Giant. Now, honestly, for appearance-wise, this is one of my least favorite figures. I think the hair is awful. It's just a strange-looking head. It's a massive head. It is a long, triangular face. I do not like this Andre, but visually iconic. One of the first 5 LJN figures. How can you not have love for Andre the Giant? Again, I did not use Andre the Giant that much, believe it or not. I used him a great deal in '84 when I got Hogan and Andre. But after that, you know, it was hard. Like, I didn't use him a lot. I didn't use Andre a lot, and I certainly didn't use him a lot as the years went on. I absolutely did not use him as into '86, '87. I did not. He kind of just sat there. In fact, my original Andre in '87 got his '87, '88 got his nose and hand chewed off by my pet rat. Yeah, so my original Andre had a very destroyed hand and a very destroyed nose as a result of my rat. And so I really didn't use him then. So, both underused in my Fed, but one of these guys, like I said, took on a new persona, had a new character, and was used in a job role. That would be Jimmy Snuka / Siva Afi. So despite being 2 very important figures, despite Andre being my first ever wrestling figure, tied for first with Hulk Hogan, despite that, I am going to say goodbye to Andre #1, and Jimmy Snuka moves on to the second round, and I honestly believe it's going to be a short stay for Jimmy Snuka. I don't see him getting past round 2. But Jimmy Snuka has moved on. Andre the Giant goes back on the shelf. Next up. A battle that I said this morning I was not looking forward to. Hogan versus Big John Studd. This is going to be difficult to decide. And I am deciding these as I'm talking to you. Okay? I have not pre-decided any of these. Hogan, complete there with that iconic, I'm going to say that word a lot, iconic WWF LJN title. Visually, a blast back in time. This figure as a whole is a visual blast back in time because it was really like, when you thought of LJN WWF figures as a kid, if they were ever like marketed in a non-wrestling, like in a movie or whatever, like it was always the Hogan. Right, because Hogan was kind of the representative of the entire WWF, the entire LJN toy line at the time. Hulk Hogan, right? Even my friends as kid, when I was a kid, my friends that didn't like wrestling, many of them had a Hulk Hogan figure just because their aunt got it for them because it was Hulk Hogan, right? One of the best play poses you can have for a figure, maybe the best play pose you can have for a figure. My first figure came with Andre, got both of them at the same time. I was not one of those kids that thought Hulk Hogan, you know, I didn't boo Hulk Hogan. You know, I wasn't the cool kid that booed Hulk Hogan. I cheered wildly for him. I was indeed a Hulkamaniac. And that was portrayed in my WWF play, my LJN play. Hulk Hogan was always in the title hunt, if not the champion. I don't remember ever turning him bad as a kid, but he had some epic matches with Randy Savage, with Bruno Sammartino, some great matches in my childhood federation. Definitely the world champion most of the time, or if he did lose the belt, he would get it back. Hulk Hogan, huge figure in my past. Big John Studd, really one of the early figures that captures thickness, right? We got the Andre the Giant thick head, okay, but muscular, the musculature of Big John Studd's legs, those massive legs. I remember that this was a must-have figure for me when I was a kid. When I got Hogan and Andre, I studied the back of the package, all 5 figures, and watched the commercial, and Big John Studd was absolute want of mine as a kid. I needed to have Big John Studd. Unfortunately, didn't get him until Christmas of '85. But visually, one of my favorites. Play pose, perfect. I mean, it's Hogan's pose, basically. But how much action did he get in my federation? Not a lot. Not a lot. I do not remember having Big John Studd a part of a lot of the action, a lot of the storylines. He was not a part of. I don't have reasons for that. I don't know why Big John Studd. Maybe, I don't know. I didn't team him up with Bundy. I don't know why I didn't use Studd a lot. He's a perfect figure. So, even though I was not looking forward to this match, and both of these guys were predicted to go deep into the tournament. And if there was any other bracket system, Big John Studd would be moving on. But surprisingly, Big John Studd is going to go home. He is going to be eliminated. I am choosing Hulk Hogan over Big John Studd, launching Hogan into the second round. And if we keep the matchups, if we put the wrestlers back on the shelf and keep the matchups, it's going to be Hogan against Snuka in round 2. Next up, we have the final. Of the 5 1984 figures. The first 5, we've got the Iron Sheik taking on 1986. You know what I did? I probably didn't put them... Yeah, I kind of put them in reverse order. Look at that. So really, the Piper, Volkov, JYD, Hillbilly Jims, they should be reversed, but this is the way they were on the shelf. We've got the Iron Sheik rocking that custom green belt from my friends at XOX Customs. That's right, they do LJN replicas. You can get one any color you want. You want the Ultimate Warrior to rock his yellow strapped belt or his white strapped belt? Give him a call, give him an order, go on Etsy, go check him out. Net and the gang are doing custom LJN belts. Of course, you know I had to get my big green and slap it on the Iron Sheik. He is taking on short-haired Andre. Now, this is going to be tough. This is going to be really, really tough. I used the heck out of Iron Sheik all throughout my federation. All throughout. Tag teaming with Nikolai Volkov, managed by Freddie Blassie in my federation, multi-time tag team champion. A guy that when I wanted to have a random match, when I wanted to pull Tito Santana, I was always pulling the Iron Sheik as his opponent. Right? He's got a unique wrestling style that if you're a kid and a fan of wrestling, you know how to wrestle with him. You know how to be the Iron Sheik. Perfectly great play pose. Love his play pose. You know, I always wish that I had ever been able to, see in person that beautiful prototype Iron Sheik from the backs of all the packages when he had those more authentic Iron Sheik looking trunks, tights, whatever. Iron Sheik, very, very active in my Fed. Great looking face. I mean, that's the Iron Sheik. That is the Iron Sheik. Now, Andre Shorthair is a figure that I never had. My best pal at the time had Andre Shorthair. I did not. And I don't know if it was because I didn't ever find him or if it was one of those deals where it was Andre the Giant and I already had one and my mom wasn't getting me another Andre the Giant. But as much as I don't like this figure, I absolutely love this figure. I think that it is the best Andre by far. I mean, it is the same for Blackstrap Andre. They just took this one and repainted the outfit on. But it is it's the Andre right after the haircut, the butchering, the raping of Andre's dignity by Studd and Patera and Heenan. This is your short-haired Andre. This is your haircut Andre. And a better, a much better, similar pose, definitely different body, obviously. And they did a lot better job on this second Andre. However, if you go back and you watch my top 10 figures, he's in it. Andre's short hair is right up there with my favorite figures. So this is kind of weird. We're pulling in the history of the figure as well. We're pulling in the history of the figure. We're pulling in the play. For me, we're pulling in the look, the play pose, all of that stuff. And because of those things, maybe also because of the fact that I never had Andre number 2, maybe because of the fact that I really never played with Andre the Giant in my Federation, maybe because of that, Andre number 2 is going back on the shelf, and the Iron Sheik is absolutely moving on to round number 2. Now, if we keep the figures the same as they are on the shelf, the Iron Sheik is going to take on the winner of this next match, and that's going to be tough because we are looking at Greg the Hammer Valentine, complete with his tag team or intercontinental title. I used the brown straps for intercontinental and tag team. He's taking on George the Animal Steel. Now let me cut right to the chase. This is a no-brainer. Greg the Hammer Valentine is defeating George the Animal Steel. Greg the Hammer Valentine could possibly be in the finals. I don't know. George the Animal Steel got 0 playtime when I was a kid. 0. It's a bad figure. It's a bad character. I don't like the character of George the Animal Steel. I don't like the figure. It's not so much that the arms are down because I used the heck out of King Kong Bundy, same body type. I didn't like George the Animal Steel, right? So I didn't know how to play him. I would definitely use him as a bad guy if I was going to play with George Steele, but he got no play. Looks great. Great looking figure. Absolutely great looking figure. Would have loved to have seen a real, chest hair painted George Steele, but a great looking figure. But this guy, Greg the Hammer Valentine, is absolutely one of my favorite figures of all time. Tons of play. I mean, this is a great play pose. This is a play pose that got so much, just like I said about Iron Sheik. When I wanted to just sit down and have a match, grab Ricky Steamboat, grab Junkyard Dog, who's his opponent going to be? There's a good chance it's Greg the Hammer Valentine. And Valentine got pushed in my LJN Fed. He was multi-time tag team champions with Brutus Beefcake. He was Intercontinental Champion. He was World's Champion back in the day. And I love this figure. I love the punching hand. I love the clothesline hand. He can drop the big elbow down on you. Greg the Hammer Valentine. And this, I don't know if I ever told you, but this was my version of the figure 4. Ready? Oh, figure 4 is locked in. That's it, guys. We don't need articulation. We have imagination. This is my figure 4. Figure 4 is locked in. Hands down, 100%. Greg the Hammer Valentine moves on to the next round. I wanted to keep these videos at 20 minutes. So it looks like we're going to average maybe 4 matches a video, and that is going to make for a lot of videos. Moving on, if you're scoring at home or if you're by yourself, Jimmy Snuka, Hulk Hogan, Iron Sheik, and Greg Valentine all moving on to the next round and facing each other. Snuka versus Hogan, Sheik versus Valentine. We're going to run through the rest of the figures. I can tell you right now, tomorrow's matchups, Brutus Beefcake versus King Kong Bundy, Paul Orndorff versus Hillbilly Jim, Junkyard Dog versus Nikolai Volkov, and Rowdy Piper against Magnificent Morocco. We'll see you then. The tournament continues tomorrow. Good night now.